I will pass things over. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to pass things over to Moroni and Leverett and let them introduce themselves and begin this conversation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you all for taking the time to join this conversation. Really excited to be here with you all. I see a lot of unfamiliar faces here and some familiar faces as well. And so the way we want to structure this is, as Maddie said, we want to make this conversational. Obviously, Leverett and I have some questions that we will go through, but ultimately, we also want to have a conversation with you all. We want to hear from you, and so we want to save some enough time to for you to ask some questions, but also for us to engage in a dialogue, right? We want to create this space for us to also have a conversation. So that's kind of what we're hoping to have out of this. And so to kick us off, I will pass it to Leverett if you want to tell us about yourself, your career, and if you can talk about some of the pivotal moments that in your career that have led you to where you are today.
Sure, sure. My name's Leverett Wing. First and foremost, thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you, Tabian, for organizing us. Thank you to Moroni for agreeing. I was looking through Moroni's bio. He is incredibly impressive, and so thank you for making time to be here, and to Abian for organizing this, and for all of you for attending. It is a very nice Monday, maybe one of the last nice Mondays of the summer, fall, and you are all here listening to us and joining us and hopefully having a conversation with us. And so it means a great deal to all of us that you were here and making that commitment. So thank you. My name's Leverett Wing. I am the executive director of the Commonwealth Seminar. The Commonwealth Seminar is a it's almost 22-year-old now, 22-year-old civic engagement, skills building, training, and networking program for diverse communities to help our communities better access and influence decision makers at all levels of government. We teach our students about the legislative process, budget process, lobbying and advocacy, working with the press and media, working with agencies, and how to work with legislators and their staffs. And we founded this about just over 20 years ago, back in 2003. And it was founded on something that was very, very personal to me. And this is sort of one of the turning points Moroni indicated to talk about a sort of a pivotal moment. And I was, when I got out of grad school, and I won't tell you the year because that will tell you how old I am and how immature I am. But when I got out of grad school, I went to the State House. I worked as an intern for my state senator at the time. His name was Tom Birmingham. He eventually became the Senate president, but before then, he was a state senator. And it was the week before what is now Indigenous Peoples Day, but back then it was traditionally called Columbus Day. And so my very first week on the job, and it was a Friday, and it was about 4 o'clock on a Friday, and because I was the new kid, they sent me to the post office to get stamps. And if anybody has ever been to the State House is this giant maze of 3 different buildings that were added on, and you cannot go from the first floor in one building to the first floor in the other. So you have to go up 2 floors and over, and it's just this giant maze, and you don't know where you're going. So as brand new there, maybe 3 days on the job, I got lost. And so I didn't get to the post office. I left at 4. I didn't get to the post office till 4:25, and stood in line. And I finally got out of there probably about 4:45. And then I got lost on the way back. And on the way back, somebody opened their door and motioned over and said, "Hi, how are you?" And I thought, wow, everybody here is so friendly. They just call you over and want to say hello. And so I walked over to this office, and a young woman in the office. We started making small talk, and then towards the end, she motioned into her office and said, "Yes, over the long weekend, can you please make sure that our floors get vacuumed? because we have a lot of trash there and we don't want any mice or rats coming in over the long weekend. And being my wife says that I'm not that bright now, but being 21, 22 at the time, I was even less bright then. I didn't gather what was going on. And so I just said, oh, you want the cleaning crew? They'll be here probably in about 10, 15 minutes. And I just kind of wandered off. And it wasn't until I was on my way down from the State House to Park Street, the Green Line and Red Line station, that it dawned on me, she thought I was a member of the cleaning crew. And I was fuming. I was furious over the weekend the entire time. And by the time Tuesday rolled around, because it was a long weekend, I got back and I calmed down a little bit. But at the same time, I was trying to find out what should I do, and I realized, well, I didn't know where I was. I still didn't know where I was, and I couldn't go knocking on every door saying, "Where is she?" But what I did was I started looking around the State House, and I realized I was, in terms of people of color, of diverse communities, I was one of very few. And in terms of Asian Americans, I was the only Asian American in the entire State House. And so, the founder of one of the founders of the Commonwealth Seminar, Joel Barrera, and former State Senator Jared Barrios, used to say, the only color you would see in the State House until 4:30, 5 o'clock was in the Hall of Flags. And then all of a sudden, 4:30, 5 o'clock rolls around, and you see this tapestry of diversity, age, women, all coming in. And it's because they were members of the cleaning crew. And so naturally, I guess, in her mind, I was decently dressed, actually better dressed than I am now. I was decently dressed. And it didn't matter because here I was somebody from a diverse person. It was 4:45. And so therefore, in her mind, I must have been a member of the cleaning crew. And that kind of triggered me, and that kind of made me move forward with what we do now, which is try to diversify. We started the Commonwealth Seminar to try to diversify the halls of the State House. And now we try to do it with all levels of government so that our faces can be seen during the day, during the light, before 4:30, 5 o'clock. And not just our faces, but our voices can be heard, and our perspectives can be heard, and the faces in the halls of government, city halls, town halls, state house, or federal government reflect us, both in decision-making spaces, as well as staff and people who run the agencies, because it's these people who will help make the decisions and carry out these decisions. So that's sort of was the pivotal moment for me in terms of wanting to get more involved. I was in government because I had gone to grad school for that, but my true mission didn't really start turning towards that until really that day. That was a pivotal moment for me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
No.
That's very, it kind of reminds me of myself just in answering that question. I actually introduce myself. My name is Moroni Mentor, he, him pronouns. I'm a proud immigrant born and raised in Gabon. It's a very small country on the west coast of Africa. I moved to the US in 2004. I've mostly lived in Vermont before I got this job and moved to Massachusetts. But some of the most pivotal moments for me, I have to go back to college. I went to college not knowing what I wanted to study. But eventually, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to study hospitality and tourism management. I had an idea of creating a business that would bring folks from here to go explore Africa, Gabon, and because there's a lot of beauty out there. And then my first year in college, my freshman year, I took American history course. And during that time, it was during Obama's presidency, and when they were debating Obamacare, the Affordable Care. And during that time, when I took the course, we came to class, and in class, we read an article about a woman, and I still recall her name, Cassandra Fluke, who was a student at Georgetown University at the time, who testified in front of Congress because she supported this bill, and she also believed that this bill also should cover women contraception. And in response to that, Rush Limbaugh ran his radio talk going after this woman, basically saying all kind of mean things that the taxpayer should not be paying for her to have sex. I mean, just really brutal stuff. And so there was a debate in class, and I remember one of the students talked about, yes, Rush Limbaugh had every right. The student questioned where I came from and why I didn't understand that we have what's called free speech. And because of free speech, that Rush Limbaugh had every right to call this young woman all kinds of names. I do believe in free speech, but I don't know that free speeches are a speech that you actually use to put other people's down. I don't believe in that. And so for me, that was a turning point where the next day in class, my professor called me and said, you know, I've noticed you're very passionate about this. And he said to me, I don't know if you've thought about changing your major, but do you want to be at the table or do you want to be on a menu? That was the first time I've ever heard somebody say that to me. And it took me a while to understand that. And eventually, when I understood what that meant, I changed my major. I realized that I had this fire, this passion about advocacy in me, about fighting for others. And so I majored in political science. Although I have my degree in political science, I've never wanted to run for office, right? I often that tell people that I want to be the agitator, not the agitated, right? I want to be the one influencing policy making, not the one making policy, right? And so that's the kind of mindset that really led me to begin my career as community organizer back in Vermont, working for the campaign called Let's Grow Kids, which ultimately helped Vermont pass universal child care law. And then after that, I joined the ACLU of Vermont as the campaign director, where I led the Justice for All campaign, which is really focused on reforming the criminal legal system here in the US. And then from there, I transitioned to the corporate world, right? I became the activist manager for Ben and Jerry's. My title was the US activist manager. So I was managing the company's activism related issues around the entire country, which was great. But again, in that role, I never felt like I was making a difference, right? I was using a lot of the company's money to fund the projects that are happening, to fund organizations that missions I believed or the companies believed in. But I never felt that I was actually making that difference myself, which is ultimately I give up a lot of money in the corporate world to get back into what I love doing, which is advocacy. And so that's how I ended up here at MIRA. And I'm 2 years in this role as a political director at MIRA. So that's a little bit of how I ended up to where I am today. So we will continue the questions with Leverett, and I will chime in when I'm also needed. Can you tell us about how you got involved with the Commonwealth seminar and what is your experience within government? I know you talked about the government early on, and where does your passion for immigration, inclusion, and government come from?
I've been with the seminar. I was one of the founding board members and one of the founders when it started back in 2003, and I got involved largely because of the experience that I had. I had mentioned before, and trying slowly but surely trying to get diverse communities involved in government, and I was doing it pretty much individually. We didn't have there were several grassroots organizations, several community-based organizations, but at that time, the passion for getting people civically engaged, it was there, but it wasn't the primary goal of a lot of them. It was sort of secondary, and it was, oh, if we have time, we'll do civic engagement. If we have time, we'll do voter registration, and it was understandable because many of us come from the nonprofit world, the community world, where it's just the survival. Survival is the first thing, and your core programming is your first thing. And completely understandable that this 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 other facet, this other side of community engagement and civic engagement wasn't their primary goal. So, but that was also a little bit frustrating. And so when Jarrett Barrios and Joel Barrera proposed starting something called the Commonwealth Seminar, which was again the original slogan was opening the doors of the state house to everyone. Now it's opening the doors of government to everyone. I was all in because it finally provided some structure to what I was doing and some official entity to what I was doing. Because regardless of the effort and regardless of how, if people knew me or not, the natural inclination is to ask, well, what organization are you from? And my response was none, just me. And so when the seminar rolled around, it provided the perfect vehicle for that. And not just for the Asian American community, which was my focus for a long time. As Asian American, that was where my focus was for a long time, but for all diverse communities. And it really was the perfect place for me to go as a board member, where I could send folks from different communities. And we had made a lot of contacts in several communities, and so we were able to bring folks from all different communities to this program to help everybody get more involved in government. So that's how I came to be at the seminar, and it's just become a passion since it. I mean, it was a passion before, but now it is an absolute passion because of what we've seen, particularly in the last, well, start in 2016, it was very bad, and but particularly now, it's imperative that our diverse communities, particularly new Americans, learn the process and get involved in the process and figure out where their resources are. Because particularly new Americans who don't know the system, they are really prime targets for, I call it the information gap, the misinformation, disinformation, no information. And the government now uses that to instill fear. And by instilling fear, it makes everything uncertain, and then they can use that to attack us. So the more and the better we understand the system, and with the more and the better we know how to access the system, so we know who to go to when we need help, or we know how to sort of navigate the system, the better off our communities will be. There's one, we have a program called Beyond English, which is a program for communities where English is not the primary language. And so we had a program in Haitian Creole. And we thought it would just be a regular seminar class in Haitian Creole. But what we discovered was the 25 people who logged on were brand new Americans. Some of them were in hotels, where the temporary shelter in the hotels. And one gentleman had his whole family of 5 little kids around his phone, in front of his phone. And what we were able to provide was a little bit of guidance towards, where do they get their resources. But most of all, what I was most proud of is we made them feel welcome, because you hear the rhetoric, you hear the hate, and you hear you're not welcome here. It's your fault that all these bad things are happening. And one of the most gratifying things was we were able to make them feel welcome. We said, this is your country. You are here. You belong here. These are the resources. And that was beyond the knowledge. Hopefully they had at least temporarily, or at least for that hour and a half to 2 hours, that feeling that they belonged. And so that was one of the most gratifying moments. And that just happened 3-4 months ago. And so that's very fresh in my mind. And anytime I get tired, anytime I think, oh gosh, are we getting the living heck kicked out of us now? I remember that moment. And I was like, no, that's what makes it worth it. And so, Yeah. So sorry, that was a little long-winded, but that's what inspired me, and that's what keeps me going. So
Yeah. No, I think that's right, right? I think you're touching a very good, important part is this the sense of belonging, right? And because right now, a lot of us don't feel that we belong, right? And that's because we are being told that we don't belong, either verbally, but also through policies that this new administration is advocating and pushing for. And so that sense of belonging is really, really important, especially in this advocacy space, right? So I
yeah.
think that kind of leads me to, it's a good segue to my next question. You talked about, if we all know how to navigate these spaces, the better off we will be and the resources. Can you talk a little bit about the perspectives and benefits immigrants, leadership bring in government um, that you think, you know, we wouldn't be offered otherwise,
Yeah.
right? In your perspective, what benefits do you think we as immigrant bring to the leadership and government?
Just new knowledge, new knowledge, you kept using the word perspective, new perspective, fresh knowledge, of a different world perspective, because so often what we hear and see here in America is filtered through different lenses. And we don't get that perspective from outside, or that fresher perspective. And it also provides, that I know it's a dirty word now, but diversity is so important. And I often say that, sameness does not make us stronger. Sameness is not unity. It's the diversity and the different perspectives and the differences. What makes us smarter. It's what makes us broader. Our perspectives and our brains stretch broader. And it's so important that we realize that. And I don't think there's, with immigrants being under fire and getting the blame, I think the solution, I think the immigrants and new Americans are the solution to this. We are not the problem. We are the solution, because there's so much going on that we can add. There's so much knowledge that we have. If we could just be allowed, or our voices could be heard. And that's why I think the work that I do in the summer, I know MIRA does incredible work, where you are now does incredible work in empowering immigrants and empowering new Americans. And I think organizations like MIRA and hopefully the seminar offer that ability to grow, and offer the tools that our communities, new Americans and immigrants, can use to grow. So I think it's also one of the biggest issues is we don't know how to have our voices heard. We don't know how to, because the establishment is so entrenched that they're not listening, or the systems in place aren't geared towards getting new voices involved. And so that's what our organizations are doing, is trying to train folk, trying to teach folk, and trying to build those networks. And that's one of the key things that the Commonwealth Seminar keeps harping on, talking about, is building those networks and building those relationships. Relationships. I keep stressing our alumni. We have over 2,000 alumni. 91% of our alumni are from diverse communities: Black, Hispanic, Latinx, and Asian. And we're tracking LGBTQ plus as well. Started a few years ago. So 91% of our grads, of our 2,000 grads, are from diverse communities. And I think it's important that our diverse communities build those bonds and build those bridges and build those allyships, so that we can move forward together. So again, it's that's what also inspires me, is seeing our communities build those relationships together, so that we can move forward together. And one thing I will say to this room, and I'll probably end the evening on this, is cherish this room, or cherish this Zoom, because a place like this doesn't come along very often. And again, it's ABN has brought us together, and it's not just to hear Moroni and I talk. It's to meet each other, so that we saw the invitation list, we saw the RSVP list. There are folks from all over the state, all over in terms of geographic location, professions, professional accomplishments. This is an incredible room. And if we can somehow stay in touch and build upon the room that we have here, it'll be incredible. So I think that's also something that excites me about tonight is the opportunity to have all of us, not just Maroney and me get together, but all of us get together and somehow move forward. So sorry,
Yes.
again, I'll repeat that at the end of the night. But I think
Thank you.
that's a key that I would love for everybody to take is make sure that we try to keep in touch. Maybe not with everybody because that's not possible. It's just human nature, but as many people as we can because this is how we're going to build relationships moving forward.
That's right. That's right. And to that, and again, I also want to repeat that we definitely want to give you some time, and during that time, we want to get to know, hopefully, get to know you all a little
Okay.
bit as well. I think, Levray, you did mention that immigrant, we're all getting attacked. We're being used as a scapegoat for everything right now, and it just reminded me of I've been following. I can't remember his name, but he's a congressman. I think he's running for senator now in Texas, who talks about how immigrants are 1% of the population, LGBTQ community are 1% of the population, and how we have 1% of the population, the rich, that are destroying the country, and yet they are focused on the wrong 1% of the population, right? And so I think that's correct, and I agree with you that immigrant leadership brings valuable perspective and also lived experience to government that often are unheard. And so I also think immigrants are resilient and hardworking, and we all contribute not only to our economy, but also the richness of our culture, civic life. Um, and I think that when we hold leadership position, we ensure that policy making reflects the reality of those diverse communities. So I think it's really, really important that immigrants are in a position of leadership and also at the policy making table. So that's what I would just add. Um, Leverage, just thinking of, you mentioned the thinking of thinking about back on the past Commonwealth seminars, if you can talk a little bit about some of the folks who have gone through this program, how many people typically go on pursuing government or public service involvement in some way? And if there are any specific case or anyone you want to talk about, um, that would be great.
This is one thing we need to do a better job at is tracking. I mean, we have anecdotal sort of stories, and we people have our alumni say, "Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing that." But it's sort of nonprofit community-based organizations. You don't have the resources or the money to do. If I had another staff person, maybe we could track everybody. But the sort of the anecdotal and the stories and people who come back and actually teach at the seminar or come back and give back to the seminar or people who reach out to us. There are several. Marconi Almeida Barros, he is the head of diversity for Governor Healy. Works in her diversity and inclusion office. He got his start at the Brazilian Immigrant Center.
And
And
just not to cut you off, but just so
yeah.
people understand, Marconi used to hold my position at
Oh,
MIRA.
get out.
Yes,
Get
yes,
out.
yes,
Really?
yes. He used to hold my position at MIRA. So just to share, look, now I moved from a political director, now working in the governor's administration. So
Oh, no
it's possible.
way.
Yeah,
Oh, get out of town. That's very cool. Okay, now
yeah.
I'm gonna have to email him and tell and say, guess what? So, oh, thank you for sharing that, Murray. That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, so Marconi is one of our grads, and he got his start at the Brazilian Immigrant Center. And one of the bills that he said that the Commonwealth Seminar helped him advocate for was in-state tuition for immigrants, where the state schools, UMass, Boston, UMass, or even UMass, Dartmouth, and Amherst, um, before that, you had to be a citizen in order to get the state rate, which is a much cheaper, I mean, it's still very expensive, but a much less expensive rate than folks who are from out of state. So that was something that he credited the seminar in doing. We have a couple of our notable, the ones who still come back and speak with us. Boston City Councilor Julia Mejia is a Commonwealth seminar grad. State Representative Brandy Fluker Oakley is a Commonwealth seminar grad, and one of the go ahead, you were going to say, Marin, go ahead.
No, I'm like, wow, I didn't know Julia Mejia went.
Yep.
This is amazing. I'm just like, wow.
I actually did because she took it before I started as the executive director, and when I started, again tracking, I went through our database and I saw their names like I did, you know, she wasn't a counselor at that point. And then she came up to me and Julia, she just like, I was, she was in my face. And I'm like, who is she? And and it turns out she was a seminar grad. She was very proud of it. So she's been great in terms of coming back. And one of the cooler things, and this person's not an elected official, but if anybody rides the MBTA buses, if you ride an MBTA bus, at the front of the bus, both on the inside and outside, you see a sticker dedicated to Rosa Parks. It's a Rosa Parks tribute. That sticker is due to a year-long effort by one of our alumni, Natalie Ornell, who credits the Commonwealth seminar, and she's done it on video, she's done it in public, and she's done it during speeches. She credits the Commonwealth seminar for giving her the inspiration and the background and the skills needed to get legislation passed to have that sticker on the buses. She went down to Miami, Florida about 3 or 4 months after taking the seminar, and she saw a seat dedicated to Rosa Parks. And she thought, oh, that would be cool to have here in Massachusetts. And so she went to her state senator, had legislation filed. And if any of you want to join the seminar at some point, she comes back every single session and tells that story because it encompasses all the lessons of the seminar. It's the legislative process, the budget process, lobbying and advocacy, working with state legislators, utilizing the press and media. Her story encompasses all of the lessons that the seminar teaches. And that's how she got, after a year and a half effort, the sticker put on all of the MBTA buses in the face of a lot of opposition. Surprisingly, you figure that's a no-brainer, but there was a lot of opposition and a lot of feet dragging by people in power, and so that's one of our cooler accomplishments. Is anytime you go on an MBTA bus, and if you look at an MBTA bus and you see that sticker at the front, that's a Commonwealth seminar grad. So
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
That's really great to hear. I know you mentioned that the Tony and the Tuition Equity Act basically also want to take credit for MIRA. That's one of the bill that MIRA really worked on. So the tuition equity, as Leverett said before that was passed into law, any immigrant students who attend high school here and graduated wanted to attend college or university in the state of Massachusetts, they were not eligible for in-state tuition. And since that law passed, now, regardless of your immigration status, if you graduate in Massachusetts, high school, want to go to college here or university, you will get the same in-state tuition as those who were born here or who are citizens.
And actually, we talk about relationships. It was probably relationships. Marconi was at MIRA. He had the relationship with people at MIRA. And so MIRA is so large and so influential and so respected that it made sense to bring MIRA on board, and probably having MIRA on board helped propel the legislation as well. And so it's, again, a go back to relationships. It's Marconi having worked at MIRA, and I didn't even know that until about 5 minutes ago.
It's very important. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that relationship, because just so you all understand how this works, right? Relationship I Leverett is talking about. Like right now, because I know Marconi used to be in my position. I know who he is. I go through him to try to get a meeting with the governor. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it really comes down to those relationships. So I think I'm really glad that you said that. Like a relationship and this work is really, really important. And Leverett, you also talked about getting involved. And I wonder, can you talk a little bit about, again, considering our current political climate and in what ways would you encourage people to get involved in government politics? And what are the beginning steps, if there are any, and what direction can you point them from here?
I mean, the very basic way and the simplest way, if folks are citizens, is to vote. And even if folks are not citizens, there are several local cities and towns that allow non-citizen voting on local initiatives. And so if you can, that's the very basic way to get involved, the very basic way to have your voice heard. Another way is to get your start. I mean, this is how I got my start. And looking at your bio and knowing Marconi and a lot of the seminar grads, the way folks got their start was through community organizations, because that's where you learn the issues. That's where you meet your networks. And that's where you learn skills. That's a main thing, is to learn new skills and try new things. And that's where you build trust. I mean, trust is such an important thing in terms of working in government, relations in government, actually in anything. Trust is such an important thing. And so to get your start, to get your feet wet and do it in a relatively safe environment, I always say to folk, if you can, if you have time, if you have the ability, slowly but surely get involved in your community, whether it's a community organization, whether it's a neighborhood organization, whether it's a board in your city or town. And we all understand that it's hard because you have to have a certain privilege in order to have time, in order to do all of those things. But if you can at some point, and you have family, you have work, you have all these competing interests, but if you can, slowly but surely, even if it's an hour a week or 2 hours a week, slowly get involved with your community if at all possible, because that's where you build the skills. That's where you build the networks. That's where you build your knowledge. And that's the advice I give folk. And then once you start to get more comfortable, if you'd like, then maybe you even, that's how you get to meet your decision makers in government, whether it's on a board in your city or town, or whether it's your state rep, state senator, city councilor, mayor, whoever. By getting involved in some of these causes and in your neighborhood and in these organizations, that's how you get to get to know people better, and that's how you build those networks, and that's where you slowly but surely start to ramp up your knowledge and networks and ability to influence people.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. I think I would absolutely second every word that you said. I think, especially right now, when change at the federal or even state level can seem almost impossible or time consuming. I think the best way to start is locally,
Yep.
right? Whether it's at getting involved with the school board or the city council. Leverett talked about Julia Mejia, who went through the Commonwealth seminar, who is now this Boston city council member. So start at the local level and also get involved with organizations that are advocating for what you believe in, right? Get involved, find a way to get involved with them. They will provide you the training and resources necessary to be an active advocate. So definitely start local, find organizations whose mission you believe in, and also get involved with them, whether that's local or state level.
Yeah.
Um,
And if I can add one more thing, if you want to get involved with an elected official, don't be shy. If there's an elected official who you think he, she, they reflect your values, or they do work, or they work on something that you really support or admire, reach out to them. Because especially if you're in their city or town, because you're their constituent, and so they'll listen to you because you're their constituent, and sort of that's how you again build that relationship, so that you can bypass a lot of these things, and you can have a more direct relationship with the elected official or their staff. And that's one thing that the Commonwealth Summer we always talk about. Never ignore the staff, because the staff is where 90% of the work gets done. And the staff is also where the staff will also very likely be somebody who might run for office in the future for that legislator's seat, because they know the area, they know the issues, they know the people, they know the office, so they know the lay of the land. So if if you hear of a legislature, or one of your legislators or city councilors, town meeting members does something that you support, reach out and say, hey, I really liked what you did there. And that's how you get to know them. And that's how you get to build their trust, if you get to know them, and they get to work with you and you get to work with them.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I know you mentioned civic engagement earlier. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but for us at MIRA, I think, when I think of civic engagement, it's really central to everything that we do at MIRA, right? I would say that our advocacy and policy work depends on people, immigrants and non-immigrants alike, right? Being informed, engaged, and active in the process. So that's why we run voter registration. You mentioned voting, which is really critical. We do voter registration drives, and during election years, we do our Get Out Vote campaign to mobilize people to get out and vote. I'm actually excited. MIRA has been a G3 organization, which means we cannot endorse any particular candidates, but we are now in the process of having a C4 organization,
Oh,
which
really?
means we will be able to endorse candidates and tell people who to vote for.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited
That's
about,
cool.
yes, I'm really, really excited about that.
When
So
do you
I
think
don't know if you
that'll be
want to
completed?
elaborate more on the
Yeah.
civic
When do you
engagement
think
piece.
that'll be completed? That's a huge step. When did you start that? How did you come to be that? And that's exciting news.
So we're actually in the implementation phase right now. It's funny, when I first came into this role, my first meeting with Marconi, one of the things he said to me is that about the State House, he said, that building, they listen to C4 organization,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Meaning people who have, these are also organizations who give money to candidates and support. And so there is a lot of leverage as a C4 that we can have. And so I'm really excited about that. That will really expand the scope of our advocacy work.
Wow. That's exciting news. Thank you. So I'm learning all these new things today. See,
Yeah,
this is getting into this room, is learning new things, and knowing the different networks and connections and things like that. And that's exciting news. Thank you for sharing that.
it is. It is. Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about it. Um, and so my other question, as again, as someone with so much leadership experience, what advice, I kind of asked this earlier, but this is more about leadership position, right? What advice do you have for someone either on this call or someone out there trying to get into leadership position? What advice would you give them? And
I
it
mean,
can be a leadership position in a government or organization or so forth.
I think leadership a lot of what I'll say applies to pretty much any leadership position, whether it's business, community, or politics. A lot of it is, uh, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's relationship building. It's building trust. It's building your constituency. It's building that network so that when people need something or want something or need knowledge or need somebody to speak up for them, or need a trusted voice, that you are that person, or you are those people, or you are that group. Because it's whether you're physically, you become, oh, I'm senior vice president of this, or you're perceived. A lot of it is perceived leadership. A lot of it is, you may not have the title, but people see you as, that's the person to go to. And I've seen it all the time in public service and in politics. Somebody who may not have a title, particularly one of the folks. I always look to senior citizen centers or senior homes, and there are a couple of seniors who, they don't have titles, but everybody knows that they are the people to go to when you need something, or when you need news spread, because they have spent their lives working, they have spent their lives building those networks and building that trust in their community. And so it's the same thing that goes in business. Are you trusted there? Are you somebody who has that experience, who has that knowledge, who people know they can go to and it'll get done? Is if it's community-based organizations, what's your, I mean, clearly, Maroney, with your work with Ben and Jerry's and in Vermont and now in MIRA, that's why MIRA asked you to join them. It's that knowledge, it's that experience, and that's that reputation and the networks again that you bring to the table. And so whether it's business, community-based organizations, or politics, it's those relationships that will get you to where you want to be, particularly in elected officials, because elected officials, I don't know if folks saw that there was news that came out today that Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is getting a new chief of staff. Her current chief of staff, Tiffany Chu, who has spent 4 years in Boston, is stepping down and chief of staff is a tough job. And so after 4 years, she's stepping down to travel and refresh. And I think the word she used was sabbatical, which I don't blame her, after 4 years of that job. And so she's stepping down. And so the new chief of staff is going to be a woman named Claire Kelly. Claire Kelly is somebody who was in the mayor's office as the head of intergovernment relations. And so she has that trust. She has that intergovernment relations also means she knows everybody in City Hall. So she has that network. And she has the experience because she was also, I remember Claire from working with Governor Deval Patrick, former Governor Deval Patrick. And so she has that reputation as somebody who can be trusted and somebody who can get the job done. And so I think that is one of the prime examples now, if you want to become leadership in government, is build those relationships and that trust starting from day one, so that when a government official is looking for a leader or looking for somebody for their team or a leader in their staff, they see you, it's like, oh, well, I've worked with that person. I trust that person. I know that person can get the job done. And that goes pretty much for any relationship or any leadership position you want to get. It's, are you somebody who can get the job done? Are you somebody they can trust? Is there somebody who has the networks and somebody who has the ability? So it's pretty much with every level. So, but I think today's news of Claire Kelly becoming the new chief of staff in November, that is a prime example of how to become leadership. And she's not an overnight success. She's been doing this now for 20 something years. So it takes time. And I always talk about the long game, and she definitely knows, and she's been at it for a long time. And so, but she's got the reputation and the trust and the network.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. That leads me to the next question. I know early on you named some of the folks who have gone through the seminar, and I apologize if this is a little repetitive, but if you can talk a little bit about the role you think that the seminar has played in creating, this new group of diverse leaders, and follow up to that is, do you have any future goals for the seminar that folks should know?
I mean, I think in terms of the role the seminar plays, I mean, we're one facet, we're one cog in a giant, it's everybody's environment plays a role in terms of how or what they do. We are just, I don't want to overhype what we do. We provide knowledge, we provide skills, we provide the hopefully the comfort level for people to want to get involved in government. I used Natalie as an example. She always says if she hadn't taken the seminar, she would have never thought about putting a sticker on the bus. But then she had the knowledge, she had the skill, she had the comfort level of how to get involved in government so that she wasn't scared or nervous. Even something as very simple as I described trying to navigate the State House in my first week on the job. Even something as going into the State House physically is a nerve-wracking experience because you get lost and the building's so big and it's up on a hill. And if anybody's a sports person like me, I love sports, it's called a home field advantage. You go there, you're a visitor, and you're already nervous. And by the time you get lost 3 or 4 times, your mind's not where it needs to be. And so what you wanted to say to a legislator, it's you can't properly function in peak capacity. So it's a home court advantage for the decision makers. What we try to do is we try to level that field. We try to make it so that it's more of a neutral field so that you have that knowledge and you're comfortable going in there. And even if the crowd is against you, you're like, no, I got this. So that's part of what we try to do, both with the skills, the knowledge, and the comfort level, but also the networks. Again, you walk into a room and a lot of staff people, a lot of it's City Hall, especially. One of the mayor's intergovernment relations people who may be up for taking Claire Kelly's role. Claire's moving to chief of staff, so somebody has to fill her role in intergovernment relations, is a Commonwealth seminar grad, Jaylee Pereira, and she's on our board. And so you go into all these different layers of government and you find somebody from a seminar. And it's not just that one person. Hopefully what we do is it's the domino effect where one person leads to the other, and that leads people to be able to make change thanks to a relationship they have with the seminar or a relationship a seminar grad has with somebody else in the decision-making chain. So that's what we're proudest of is that whole network of people. And in terms of what we want to do next, we've been really active in trying to accelerate or emphasize our youth programs. We've had a youth forum just about 3 weeks ago. We had a youth conference back in April. We'll have another one in April of 2026. And we also have a program called Next Gen Leadership, which we're partnering with another organization called the Coalition for Anti-Racism and Equity. And we're trying to promote multicultural education in all of our schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. And so we're partnering with them on a next gen leadership program for high school and college age students. So if anybody wants to learn more about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat, and Maddie and Maroni will have my email as well. So we're focusing a lot on youth. And also, this is something that I asked Maddie and Maroni if we could do is before we leave today, one of the other things that we're doing is we're doing a civic engagement survey to ask folk what barriers they face in terms of civic engagement, what skills would they want to learn in terms of civic engagement. We're focusing those on gateway cities, but we are having the data, we're collecting the data from all over the place. And so if folks would, and you can do it anonymously because we make the email and the name optional. So often it's no, you have to provide it, but we know that a lot of folks just don't want to provide it. So if you want to fill it out anonymously, what we'd like to do before we all leave today is if you could take 3 to 5 minutes to fill out the survey, that would help us a lot because that's one of our next endeavors is to beef up and improve civic engagement in gateway cities. And the only way we can do that is through knowledge, because we don't have all the knowledge. We can think we know what people want, but it's the survey and the focus groups that we'll be doing, which will really educate us in terms of what people are looking for. So if folks could perhaps stay on this Zoom afterwards, or I'll even put the survey in the chat. If you could fill that out sometime today before we all leave, that would be incredibly helpful to us and help pay it forward in terms of what we're trying to do, and also build our network. Because if you offer your email address and name, we can loop you into the seminar and you become part of sort of our seminar network, and we can fill you in on different things that we're doing, and maybe we can be a resource to each other. So I'll actually, you know what I'm going to do before we move on?
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat so
put it
people
in
can
the
start
chat.
working on it.
There we go. What am I waiting for? It's in the chat.
Yeah.
So
Great.
if folks want to fill that out, we really would appreciate it. Like I said, it should only take, it's all sort of fill in, you click on dots and things like that. So it won't take too long. We don't have essays. So if you can maybe just fill it in, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Leverett. Yeah, and folks, please, they take just 1 or 2 minutes if you can fill out the survey. And also, if you want to get involved with MIRA, I'll make sure to put in the chat here a link to sign our petition to get involved. But we are just 3 minutes after 6. We promised that we wanted to give you time to learn from you, also hear your question. I know that there are some questions that have been coming in the chat already. I just want to say, Leverett, I have enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for what
Same
you've
here.
shared here with everybody. And I feel like I have asked all of the questions. So I don't know if you have any question for me, please ask. Otherwise, we'll just turn to our audience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if folks have any questions for me or Maroney, but if Maroney was very modest in terms of what he was saying. If you go to his bio, I'm thinking our role should be reversed because he's done so much and he's done it nationally as well. So I was thinking working for Ben and Jerry's must have been one of the coolest things ever. I know that I think one of the Bens or the Jerry's stepped down recently because of political climate or something. But I mean, it must have been one of the cooler things to do and to be able to make a national impact because it is a national brand and it is respected in terms of making stands and activism and wanting to push different progressive causes. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
I know. So I'll look in the chat. Also, if folks want to raise their hand, you can do that here, and then we can call on you, or you can just put a question in the chat. And Maddie, maybe you can help Leverett and myself if there are any questions addressed to any of us directly or general question, we can figure out we can take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we have one question in the chat already. Seems like it's directed at Leverett from Chelsea. She said, you've mentioned that immigrants are an important part of this country. How to navigate through this change? Chelsea, could you elaborate a little more on this question here?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge, Leverett and Moroni. Um, I moved here like 9 months ago, and I still feel kind of a foreigner here. And hearing you saying that, okay, this country is also ours, sometimes I feel that I still feel distant from it. Let's say, like many times I hear things about like politics, what is happening, and I love politics at the same time. But I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't get that involved on this. But hearing your perspective, um, it's helping me to actually change how I should address the situation instead of feeling distant, instead of also putting that barrier that, okay, I'm not from here, so all the things that are happening doesn't mean that they don't affect me, but I'm not gonna get that much involved. How do I navigate through through this challenge on putting all this as part of myself right now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there are so many layers to that. It's almost because there's so many aspects to uh, to 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 belonging. I think one of the basic things is and I'll go back to our Beyond English session with folks from in Haitian Creole from the Haitian community is belonging, and there are so many steps and so many layers, and it is difficult, and sometimes it can be very overwhelming, and you're thinking, okay, I give up. But I think spaces like this are very helpful in terms of, I don't want to be too, my wife calls it touchy feely, but sort of the feeling of belonging and feeling of safeness in a space is very important because until you feel a little safer, it's harder to get out of your comfort zone. And that's why I go back to, if you can, find community somewhere, whether it's one or two people or an organization where you can feel that there is community and you feel safe and you feel, okay, I can learn, or I can express myself, or I can meet different people. And that's one of the things that I know MIRA does incredibly well. And I know that, and I hope, or I like to think that the Commonwealth Seminar does well also, is to provide that space so that people can feel like they belong, but also that they're learning something. It's not just sort of a club. We can all go out for dinner, we can all go out for a club, but how are we growing as people? How are we growing as a community? And I keep giving MIRA this sort of commercials. Like, MIRA is an incredible organization, and they do wonderful things in that regard. And as I mentioned, hopefully the Commonwealth Seminar does that as well. So if you actually, and I'm going to extend this offer to everybody. The next Commonwealth Seminar session begins this Wednesday. It is by Zoom, and so you don't have to be physically there. But the Commonwealth Seminar session begins this coming Wednesday, October 8th. If anybody would like to join for free, because usually we charge $85, $90 per participant. But because you're on this Zoom with us and you've demonstrated that you want to get involved, yet you want knowledge, and also ABN is a long time partner for Emmanuel and everybody. It's just a long time partner. We're happy to extend an offer to, I think we have room for 3 more folks. So if folks want to get involved, like 2 or 3 more folk, just email me or email Maddie or Maroney and let us know that you'd like to participate, because it's a 6 week every single Wednesday until November 12th from 5:45 to about 8 o'clock. We we host a seminar, and you'll learn about the legislative process, budget process, lobbying, working with the press and media, but it's also building that community. And as I
Great.
mentioned, we have over 2,000 grads, and it's a wonderful community to get involved in. We call ourselves the seminar family, and it's not just a marketing line. We really are a seminar family. And we have in December we'll have homecoming week, so you'll get to meet people from all over the seminar family. So if anybody would like to join the seminar, please email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat.
And also, Maddie is going to include some of this in her follow-up email as well. And I see, Kubina, you have your hand up. I just want to follow up on what you said to your question, Chelsea, and just to add that, first of all, thank you so much for raising that. And I think the way that you're feeling, I'm glad that this space is making you feel like, no, I want to get involved, right? Because the reality is the oppressor wants you to feel like you don't belong, right? You mentioned yourself, well, I feel like I don't belong. Why would I want to get involved and do something in a place that I don't belong? I don't belong. That might not even have a difference. That's exactly how they want us to feel. If we feel that way and give up, they win, right? So we cannot give up. This is a country that was built by immigrants. No white person belongs here. They all came here and took the land from Native American. So this law does not belong to anyone. And I think it's very important to keep that in mind. And I'm also going to say something that's probably going to get me in trouble here. But look, the reality of all of this is the white folks are terrified to be in the minority. All of this anti-immigrant, anti-Black and brown people is because they are terrified that in 2040, the white folks will be in a minority. And so if you are so scared that you are going to be in a minority, why is that, right? All of these anti-Black and brown immigrant policy, this is what's driving this, right? And so when we, on this call, start feeling defeated and say we give up, they win. And so we cannot do that. We have to stand up, we have to stay involved, and we have to be engaged. So I just wanted to add that. And I don't know if Lever had more to add, but I wanted to go to Kabina too.
Yeah, and the other thing is we have to stay involved, like you were saying, stay involved and stay active. The other thing we have to do is stay united, because the oppressor will also try to divide us, because that's our ability to overcome the oppressor is because we have numbers. But if they start dividing us, then we peel off a little bit here, peel off a little bit there, or oh no, it's this community is, if you pit one community against the other, and they've been doing this for years. And I have an entire rant about how they've sort of the something called the model minority myth, where they've painted Asian Americans as the model minority just to hold down Hispanic, Latino, and Black communities, which is a complete fallacy, a complete farce. So I have an entire rant on that. But the oppressor will try to divide us, and that's one thing we can't have. And that's actually one of the reasons we really do need multi-ethnic education, is to know all of our stories. Because once we know all of our stories and we know how things came to be, we'll have a bit more empathy for each other. We'll know each other's stories. We'll know each other's backgrounds. We'll say, oh, well, no, that's not true. What they're telling me is not true. And so we'll be able to stay united. So it's everything that Moroni said, which is perfect and right spot on. But if I could also add, stay united. And that's where I think that is a key component as well.
Yeah. And I know we have Kobina. I hope I pronounced your name right. Correct me if I didn't. I see your hand up.
It's close. It's Kobina Bonnie.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll get it right next time. Thank you.
It's okay. All right. So I'm originally from Ghana. I've been here in Boston, I'm into my 31st year now. And I've been involved in a lot of organizations. Served as the president of the Ghana Association for 2 terms a while ago. Now I'm involved actively with another organization which seeks to, I guess, bring the African community together. So we call it AMAC, Activated Massachusetts African Community. Actually, just this past Saturday, we had MIRA do a presentation, train the trainer thing for some folks, because we want them to be able to train others in the community on know your rights. So Jessica came to do the presentation this past Saturday. Anyway, a couple of thoughts. One about what Leverett said with connecting with a community. I think for especially relatively newer folks, I guess the first, quickest will be one that is of people from, say, wherever you came from, right? Whether it's from Ghana, Haiti, whatever it is. That is the easiest, but that shouldn't be the only one. It can be an organization that advocates on topics that you are interested in, again, like Leverett said, because you need to have people that share some of the things that you believe in to feel comfortable enough to then stand up and advocate for the things that you believe in. And the other thing I would say is that even for those of us who've been here a long time, it's not easy, right? Things happen, and sometimes you are put in a situation where you feel like you don't belong, but you can't allow that to get in your way. So again, if you are new, it feels more fresh, it feels harder. But even for those of us who've been here a long time, it can happen. And the last thing I will say, actually 2 more things. One is that we, the ones that have been here a long time, and even new people who are newer, but who are here to stay, I think it's important that we get involved. Again, in your town or your city, school committee, whatever it is, because we are here. If we are here to stay, we might as well make our voices heard and have, our opinions reflected in the things that happen. Things shouldn't happen to us. If we are here, we pay taxes just like anybody else, then we should feel confident enough to participate and make our interest be reflected in what happens. So I will encourage everybody here to please try. It doesn't have to be you doing it for quote unquote work. Okay. Sometimes, someone goes into a space because they want to work in that space. It can be, well, you have your day job, but you feel strongly about something else going on and you want to participate. So you can join an organization where you volunteer on your off time and participate in whatever's happening. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be something you're doing for work. Yes, you can do it if that's what you want to do, participate in that space. But you can also do it on a volunteer basis and still help make things happen. Lastly, Leverett, you did mention the Commonwealth seminar. I know, yeah, you made the offer for the series that's starting on Wednesday, but if you could please send some more information about the seminar in general so that we can help publicize it to a wider audience and hopefully get more people for future sessions, I think that'll be great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that offer. And we definitely will follow up on that. And your advice is spot on. So thank you for sharing all of your insights as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I agree. And I also want to add, Kabena, thank you. You said something. I also think that for us immigrants who have been here for a while now, right? For someone like Chelsea who still feels new here, we have the obligation to also reach out, right? So Chelsea, I really hope that you will use this space to make connection tonight. That's why I put my email. So reach out to those of us who've been here, right? I think we have the obligation to help those who are coming, who are new. As you said, even if when you've been here for long, it's still complicated to navigate all the systems that we have to navigate. And can you imagine someone who is still new, right? So let's use this space as a way to connect. Let's help each other. And think about it, think about the rhetoric that are being used right now, right? Even here in Massachusetts, this administration has done a good job of pitting even immigrants versus each other, right? This idea, I've had conversation when we had a lot of new arrivals coming here in Massachusetts. I talked to a lot of immigrants who have been here longer, feeling that, oh, these newcomers now are coming in and they are accessing all these services that I cannot access. And I've been here for so long. So they start pitting immigrants who are not anti-immigrants who are coming in, right? Yep. So we need to be aware of that. We need to understand each other's stories, as you were talking about, leverage, so we can advocate for each other. There are reasons why people are coming here. I do not know anyone who decides they wakes up and say, hey, I know doctors who are here, who have left their country because they were terrified of being killed. I know people who just did not just leave their career and their family behind and say, I'm going to come in and get all of these hates here in the United States. We have stories. People have reasons why they're here, and it's important that we share those stories. So it's important that we all stay connected, and those of us who've been here a little longer, that's not to say that we are all expert of the systems now, right? But whatever we have, share that knowledge and help those who are feeling still a little new.
Yep. So, and actually, that's in terms of what I mentioned before, the oppressor trying to divide us. One of the other things they do is they pit old folks who have been here longer against folks who are just coming into the country. And in the Asian American community, I've heard we did it the right way, or we got here the right way. And I don't think that, and so that's how they divide us even further, but not just Black, white, Latino, the LGBTQ plus, it's immigrant versus immigrant within the same ethnicity. And I've seen it and my friends in the Latino community say that that's one of the reasons why so many folks from the Latino community voted for Trump over Harris, is because it was we came in here the right way. And you lose sight of the fact that you're here because of XYZ. You're here because you're leaving you left the country because of of being oppressed, or you left the country because this was happening. You came here for a reason. They're coming here for the same reason. But for whatever reason, they're able to convince folks, no, we did it the right way. Those people did it the wrong way. And so that's how they divide immigrants as well within the same ethnicity. And so we have to be very cognizant of that. That's why we have to stay together and we have to stay united. So,
yeah.
And nothing. I'm going to use some colorful language. Nothing pisses me off more than that. So it really does. So
Same here, same here. And especially when you see immigrants also falling for it, and now we're
yep,
all fighting each other. It's like, guys, we should be
yep,
on the same page.
yep, exactly. And you see people from different communities joining ICE now. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, what are you doing? So, so anyway, sorry about that. I had to say that. So
Yeah. We still have 7 minutes. I don't know. We want to hear from other folks on this call. Please chime in. If you have a question, raise your hand, put it in the chat. Maddie.
Yeah, no, please. I was just going to say the same thing. If anyone wants to contribute any last minute thoughts, questions, feel free because we have a couple more minutes left.
So I'm Junior. I'm sorry. I'm not able to tune on my camera because of where I am. When are we gonna receive an email regarding the next activity that we will have, like the next seminar?
Yeah, so I'll send a follow-up email tomorrow morning with all of the information from today's session. I'll send over Maroney and Leverett's contact information, and I will also
Okay.
link the websites for both MIRA and Commonwealth seminar. So as Maroney said, or sorry, as Leverett said, they have the next Commonwealth seminar starting on Wednesday, but there'll be more in the future as well. So if you want more information on those ones, we can answer those questions for you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Of course.
yeah, and I put my email address in the chat again so that if you do want to enroll in the upcoming seminar, we do have some spaces available if you'd like
Okay.
to join this session. But yeah, there will be future sessions and
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
once again, I put the survey in the chat just because I can then tell my staff I put the survey in the chat 3 times, and so they can't yell at me. So even though I'm their boss, they yell at me. So well,
That means you're a good boss.
I hope so. Thank you.
If he can still tolerate you, stop yelling at you, that's a good thing, you
It
know.
means we have an open relationship. That's what I like to say. It's an open relationship. So yeah, communication. So
All right, I see we have a hand up. Ching?
Yeah, I really want to thank Kobana sharing the concern earlier. It's, like easier to share the information about the program that among the communities. But I also want to share that this year there's a lot of local elections happening, and due to what is going on the federal level, we actually have a lot of immigrants running for local elections. So not only please go out and support them, but also like for those who wants to be involved, this is a great opportunity to directly reach out to them, find them at your community, learn from them, right? I'm located in Watertown. For I don't think this has ever happened before. We have 4 person of color relatively new immigrants running for local elections this November. And I'm sure that might be the case for wherever you are right now. So those candidates are eager to find their community, to listen from all of us. So make sure that you pay attention to those and reach out to them directly.
Thank you. Thank you for plugging that. That's amazing. They're not all running for the same seat, I hope, right? All different seats.
No, they're for different. Some are for school committees, some for library trustees, some for city council. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
That's so good.
and we are trying to, at least I'm running for the library trustee, and we are trying to support each other's campaign, and we're banding together. Because the reality it is difficult to run against to those who are more identified as white and has been in the community for decades long.
Yeah.
Compared to us immigrants who's here relatively new. So I'm really I think that is really resonant with what Leverett and Maroney has been sharing. Doesn't matter what color you are, try to work together, find your network, yeah, and community. Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that.
And I think you just referenced something where they've been there for so long. They have the networks, they have their base, and they're so entrenched. That's what we have to, one, break through, and two, establish on our own. And that's where these networks that we're building here and in your community and through ABN, that's where these are so important, because we have to find a way to build our networks. By breaking through is hard enough. Staying there is difficult. And the only way to really, one of the main ways to stay there is to have that foundation and have that network and have that base so that it's you are as established as the person that was there before you.
Yeah.
One of the ways to stay there is to get there.
Yep.
Get there first. Let's stay. This has been a great conversation, Leverett. I really appreciate you, but I also want to appreciate all of you on this call who have contributed to this conversation, whether if you spoke or just by being here and by listening. I hope you found this informative and not a waste of your time on the evening of Monday. Again, I'll pass it to Leverett and Maddie, but I certainly just want to say I thank you all so much for making the time to be here in community with us and having this conversation. And again, let's use this space, as Leverett said, let's expand it, let's stay connected, let's work together. So thank you, and I will pass it to you, Leverett.
And thank you, Maroni, for making this such an easy conversation and such a hopefully for everybody productive conversation. Thank you for your guidance on this, and thank you for teaching me so many different things that I didn't know. So I really enjoyed that, and so thank you for making.
Did you say you learn something new every day? So hopefully we all learn something new today.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for making, and that's actually what I was talking about, welcoming. You made this a welcoming space for everybody. And so thank you for making this such a welcoming space for all of us. And really, you set the tone. So thank you so much for that. And thank you, Maddie, for leading us and for organizing this and putting this together. And even through missed emails and rescheduled meetings, being so persistent. Maddie is a hero. I want to put that out to everybody. Maddie is a hero. And she really, with everything that Maroni and I have going on, this could have easily just fallen through the cracks. And it was Maddie who really got us over the finish line. So thank you so much for this, Maddie. You really are wonderful.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to organize it, and I'm so glad that you both were able to join us tonight. And I learned a lot too. I loved the conversation, and I really appreciate you guys for doing this. So thank you, Maroni. Thank you, Everett. Both very amazing. And I want to thank all of you who stayed for the entire thing and everyone who contributed questions and comments. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I will close this out now because it is 6:30, so I want to let you all get back to, your normal schedules. It is a little later. So thank you all for being here today. I'll contact everyone in the email tomorrow. And if anyone is interested in joining those last couple spots in Commonwealth seminar that start Wednesday, please email Leverett, and if you would like to copy me, please do that as well. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Maroni. Thank you, Leverett, again. Appreciate everything you guys do, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.